Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and I hope you're doing fine. Oh, wait, give me a second.
Oh, look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! This is Sparta!
Yeah, and as you can see, we're gonna have quite some fun. So today we're gonna have a review about Crimson Desert, and as you can see, there are quite a few chapters that we will cover. As always, timestamps in the description below, so in case you want to jump just to certain topics because they interest you, feel free to do so. And with that, let's go. Let's start with our first chapter. What is Crimson Desert? You're playing the main protagonist, Cliff. Your goal is to rebuild your faction, the Greymanes. Everything plays on the continent of Pyrewell. The game is described as an open-world action-adventure, not as an RPG game. We will talk about that later. The setting can be described as medieval with a touch of fantasy. There are fictional races and monsters in the game, and there's a tiny bit of, well, quote-unquote, magic. But the core of the game is the classic knight and sword setting. The game is purely single-player, at least at the point of me making the review. The developers behind Crimson Desert is the studio Pearl Abyss. They are well known for their previous title, Black Desert. Apparently they really like the word desert, but who knows. As always, I want to talk a bit about the devs, because in my opinion it does matter what kind of team worked on the game. Small indie company with a tiny budget, or AAA studio with thousands of employees. Pearl Abyss is developer and publisher at the same time. They are located in South Korea and have their headquarters in Gwacheon. Gwacheon? I have no idea how to pronounce that. In total, according to a source from 2024, 1,331 people are working at the company. So we are looking here at a rather big studio with experience and resources. Therefore, my judgment today might be a little bit more on the harsher side. Also, at the point of the review, I played the game for 40 hours. And let's be honest here, 40 hours for Crimson Desert, that is not a lot because the game is massive. But I still think that 40 hours is enough to do a review about it, and you can call it full review or first impression. My opinions in today's videos might change, so go and check the pinned comment, because in the pinned comment, if there are any drastic changes in my review after playing the game, I don't know, 50, 60, 100 hours, you can see it over there. And with that, let's talk about the gameplay and story. I will not cover everything today, because there is simply too much and it would fill a whole video on its own. At least the gameplay part. The story is, yeah. You start as the main character Cliff, you are a Greymane, that's your faction. You get tossed into the game with no explanation. You meet characters that you are supposed to care deeply about, but you just struggle to even remember all the names. Then you have a boss fight where you are supposed to lose, and you end up in the abyss after getting killed. Then you wake up next to a river and you start escorting a traveling merchant. Yeah, if you think that the story is making no sense, welcome, join the club, because you're not alone. The game doesn't really explain much. It took me 25 hours of gameplay to finally get an explanation what the Abyss actually is. To be fair, I did more exploring than chasing the main story, so others will probably learn a bit more about the mysteries of the game way earlier than me. The main focus of the early story is to find your companions and rebuilding your faction. Naturally, you will stumble across forces that threaten Pyrewell, and it's up to you to save the day. The too long didn't read, the story is very confusing, and for me personally, I never felt the need to really engage with it. On the other side, the gameplay is not bad at all. The exploration of Crimson Desert is fantastic. I saw a few people complain that the map feels empty, and I don't really see that. Climb to any observation point and you will see dozens of points of interest you want to explore. In my experience, the gameplay is exploring, discovering side quests, and building a reputation for yourself with different factions, be it by just doing quests, by collecting bounty, or other means. The combat is enjoyable and actually has a breath of fresh air compared to other open-world action-adventure games. Pearl Abyss sprinkled, how do I put this, martial arts and gymnastics into the combat, and it feels good. You can kick, you can grapple, you can throw, and even fight simply barehanded. Combined with weapon combos that you will learn during the game, fighting feels fun and diversified. Nevertheless, the controls are a huge downer for the game. Yes, it's meant to be played with a controller, and I did play with mouse and keyboard, because whenever I have to aim in my game, I just prefer mouse and keyboard. And well, the bow does require some aiming, so here we are. I will keep in mind though that the devs want us to play with a controller. Still, who came up with the base default controls? Healing is on F3, while targeting is on control. So you have to stretch your hand in a weird way to reach your healing, but you can rebind hotkeys. Well, I think it's absolutely wild to place the default hotkey for healing on F3, whatever, you can change it. Still, when you want to load a person on the back of your horse, you need to hit control first to unlock the extra controls. Why? When you want to talk to a quest or story person, you guess it already, you can't just go there and interact with them, you have to use the control hotkey first to enable the extra controls. Why? Sometimes the controls are overcomplicated. Targeting an enemy and parry are on the same hotkey. Why? After a while you do get used to it. I think it took me around 4 to 5 hours to open up to the game and to start appreciating what it has to offer. And there is a lot. There are, let's call them minigames, such as fishing and cooking. Especially the fishing minigame is really well done. Every now and then, when the scenery is amazing, I just stop, whip out my fishing rod and relax from killing bandits all day. And the game has a trust system. Petting and feeding stray animals can make them your companions. And yes, you can get an army of cats if you so desire. There is more, but the video will just explode when I would list every single feature of the game. Conclusion: the story of Crimson Desert feels heavily disjointed, but the amount of raw content and exploration is off the charts. Now a bit of a discussion about the difficulty of Crimson Desert. It's all over the place. You start the game is easy. You go to the next zone because you want to explore and get absolutely destroyed. Then you go to the border of the map just to meet regular bandits, which you just simply slay. There are areas where you can take on 20 to 30 enemies at once, and then there is a boss that one-shots you literally 20 meters away from them. Same for the main story quest, there is a crazy difficulty spike once you get to the Reed Devil boss. I don't want to spoiler the fight, but bring tons of food. There is also no indicator telling you how much tougher the enemies are. You just have to test fight, which is a bit tricky because enemies can be way stronger than you and you can't even block all the damage. So prepare for some pain. Also, some areas have a crazy amount of enemies, so when you decide to fight one patrol, you can easily trigger 2 or 3 more and get overwhelmed.
Nani?
That being said, as long as you are in the areas where you're supposed to be, it feels good. And I don't mind that every now and then I go to an area and get destroyed because I don't have the gear yet or I'm not experienced yet enough for that. But the difficulty spikes in the main story quest, yeah, that absolutely caught me off guard. Especially since there is no difficulty setting in the game, at least the last time that I checked. So you either get all the skills and you get all the gear, or, well, you get good.
What in the blazes?
Next up, performance. Solid, absolutely no issues. Loading times can be a bit long sometimes, but that is fine. And a huge plus for Crimson Desert is the amount of bugs I encountered. I mean, the world is massive. Compared to games like Skyrim that had, let's say, a few issues on release day, I encountered only very few bugs. Like insta-dying in deep water. And no, this is not because the protagonist can't swim. You can swim in full armor, no problem. And here and there are some inconsistencies. You attack bandits and suddenly a guard starts attacking you. You defeat the guard and you somehow did not commit a crime. Weird. But overall you almost never need to load a lot. You access most areas naturally. There are no loading scenes for entering caves, for example. Game ran very smoothly. I'm gonna quickly blend in my specs so you can compare. But I had a few crashes in my 40 hours. This is not great, but not the end of the day, since the autosave function saves your butt quite a lot. Then audio. The audio is doing, well, its job. It sounds a bit rough and a bit mean, but when it comes to spells, combat sound effects and most of the voice acting, it's solid. There are some weird pauses when NPCs talk to you in their dialogues, but alright.
I'll head into town and see what I can find out. Don't worry, I'm sure I'll find a lead on them. You know I'm the best man for it. I'll be back before you know it. They couldn't catch me even if they tried.
The soundtrack stays in the background and completes the experience with soft soundtracks during exploration or a bit more action-packed music for combat. Nevertheless, the audio sometimes completely disappears. For example, when you open up your inventory, there is absolutely nothing. And that actually kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because they could have just dampened the audio and not just completely get rid of it. Sometimes you do have to manage your inventory mid-boss fight, and then it's just complete silence. And some sound effects in the inventory were quite the thorn in my side, but besides that, I didn't find much to complain about. Now let's talk about what do I like about playing Crimson Desert. And the unique selling point for the game is the sheer amount of content for exploration. It is mind-blowing. I also saw a few comments from people being, on other platforms or in my chat that the map feels empty. I don't think I can support that statement in any way. Whenever I'm on a mountaintop or any other high point in the game, I can spot dozens of points of interest I want to explore. Just for fun, I traveled from one map border to the other, and that was an absolutely crazy journey. You passed through a broad variety of biomes, and I encountered so many bizarre places and unique enemies and bosses. It was wild. And it is tough to explain how much you can actually do. I almost felt demotivated to play the game again because I knew I would never be able to explore all of it. So this would be my unique selling point for Crimson Desert. But there is more. Horse riding. Yeah, sounds dumb, but this is one of the few games where it feels good. Your horse stomps have a satisfying oomph to it. It truly feels like a heavy horse with an armed soldier on it. In other games, you get the impression the horse and rider are made out of paper. And yeah, sure, the Tokyo horse drift is a choice, but our horse is magical anyway, so I gladly accept this. It is a bit over the top too. Your horse is like a Skyrim goat. And while this is not realistic, it still felt good, because otherwise traveling across the map would be tedious.
Bruh.
There are also quite a few professions, however, you don't really learn them. A smith crafts it for you. They can refine stuff for you, but you will never be a blacksmith yourself, as in, for example, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So I like the amount of professions the game has. I dislike though that you're not actually mastering them yourself. So you can sharpen your weapons and get buffs for your gear, but that seems to be the max you can do. They do have plenty of animations for your character to interact with the world. Reading a book has an animation, there's not just a text that plops up on your screen. Sharpening and refining your gear, cooking, it's well done. Just picking up a cat and petting it. Chef's kiss. The trust system is something I need to play around with more, but petting and feeding an animal will let you take it in and make it your pet. And you can do this with any random cat or dog. You can even build trust with people, like this beggar who decided to yoink the steak from my dog. So be careful, everybody's hungry for your attention in this game. Yeah, eat it, it's fine. Is the beggar taking it? Oh my god! I'm always dropping two on purpose. Oh, yes. You want that one too? Hearty grilled. Oh, you don't. Yeah?
Hi there.
Yeah, hi there. I saw what you were about to do. Now he acts like... Oh my god. Come here. Nice. The combat is awesome, while the controls have some jank. The sheer amount of moves you can learn and perform are fascinating. I went for a longsword martial arts style, but there are spears, dual wielding and other options. You can even play as two other characters. Grappling, bows and more give you a few options for your combat style. Let me just run a few clips of regular day-to-day combat in Crimson Desert. Pleases me greatly. Bam! Off the cliff, man! Off the bridge! Son, that was a good one. You also possess some magic, like this grappling hook. Most of the time you can use it for memes, but every now and then it even becomes obligatory in some boss fights and some puzzle mechanics. 95% of the time I just ignore that thing though. Next, you can build up your reputation in different locations. Getting rid of bandits, liberating camps, rescuing civilians, finishing quests and so on will give you faction points and faction badges. The more you have of that, the more gear will be accessible for you. And some quests are great. It's kind of weird to talk about this in this chapter, because I will also talk about quests in the chapter What Could Improve. But after getting sniped and knocked out by fairies, I suddenly got the option to help one of them out in exchange for getting access to their village. With the words "see you in a bit," she teleports 1 kilometer away. Yeah, alright. And suddenly you have to get an item back from an ant. You can climb the bark or you just fly on top of it from an elevated position. Amazing NPC.
Wow! You got it! If you hand it over, I'll give you something special.
Additionally, the game lets you do whatever you want. You can completely ignore the main story, which you shouldn't because it unlocks a few things, but for the majority of my playtime, so far, I decided to explore. Hell, sometimes I just stand at a riverbank and do some fishing. The fishing in this game is very well done, same with hunting and cooking. Although I still don't understand how Cliff makes beef out of veggies, but okay. Another thing that amazed me was that you can defeat certain animals and then use them as a mount, such as this bear here. Be careful though, once you get off the bear, good old cuddly teddy bear will be hostile again and attack you. So please, let us keep the animals that we tamed and don't make them a one-time rights token into you will be dinner later kinda thing. Something that might not be the most important talking point, but I think it's important to mention and to acknowledge. The devs patch rather fast. Just a few days after the release, they added more teleporters for fast travel. And they also added a personal stash in your camp. Now you can of course argue, why something basic like a personal stash in your camp not in the game at day 1? Good question. I didn't find the answer for that yet. But it appears as if they listen to people, which is nice. So the too long didn't read would be the exploration. Traveling to other zones completely shifts the vibe of the game. I don't want to show too much, but traveling into the desert areas and then suddenly bumping into bosses was always a cool experience. Even at the map border you can explore and find whole cities with a completely different setting. Go out there and explore. As always, no game is perfect, and as much as I like Crimson Desert, it is far from being perfect. Let's start with the story, and maybe you heard it already in 1 or 2 points of this review, but sometimes people jump to chapters and ignore the rest, so let me tell it to you once more. The game starts with meeting all these people that are supposed to mean something to you, while you, the player, hears their names for the first time. You get tossed into a boss fight, you get killed, you enter the void, or the abyss. Not once the game explains what that is. Then you wake up by the river and you do an escort quest for a traveling merchant. What? It all feels so disjointed. I met characters who were supposed to be important, but rarely the game decides to explain anything. This was so frustrating. It feels like they had something great in mind, but failed to properly introduce the player to it. They just pour this bucket of ideas over your head and you get confused and you try to fit the square parts into round holes. It's a bit of a shame. Then the controls. My god. Yes, I played with mouse and keyboard, but I talked to people who played with controller and they had similar jank. And some of the default hotkeys are just so bad. You can reconfigure them, but you have to be careful, because it might mess up other interactions. Because you need the same hotkey for different things. Targeting an enemy and parrying is the same key, so you untarget when you try to parry. And yes, I know there's a hotkey to actually lock onto an enemy, but you really don't want to do that while fighting a horde of enemies. This is not the biggest issue though, because the game does a decent job with targeting, with just moving your mouse in the right direction and kinda hovering over the target you want to slash, which surprised me. But when you want to load somebody on the horse, you need to hit control to show the option. You need to control to talk to people. Oh, you want to rest at a bonfire? You guessed it, hit control first, or the option doesn't show up. Why? What is the purpose of this preparation hotkey? At least with my examples, I don't see why this was needed. A bit of a petty point from me is the cooking, and the game will not lose any rating because of it. It's well done. But you cook vegetables and get a chunk of meat at the end. And no sauce? I mean, come on. I know who is at fault here. Monster Hunter. The cooking in that game is somewhat of the benchmark for me, but alright. Again, not the biggest issue, but this inconsistency is a bit weird in a game where they go all out with extreme details in other areas of the game. Then next, you can't skip cutscenes. You can only fast forward, and this can be an issue. Why, you might ask? Because bosses have a few cutscenes, which is cool and all, but should you need a lot of tries, you will get annoyed very quickly. I mean, I got annoyed by these fairies sniping me with their toxic blow darts.
Oh no! Not yet, I don't think. Let's move.
And while I do like sound effects, they overdid it. When you want to clear your knowledge, it sounds like this. I had people in chat tell me, I like this tickles my brain. I'm sorry. With all due respect, okay, it felt like it tickled my brain with a jackhammer. And I'm not alone with this, because there are already mods that let you remove that specific sound effect. And I think the devs also agree to this, because now there's a hotkey in the game where you can just clear all and easy. Perfect. Again, I remember ranting about this during one of my streams. Why is the clear all knowledge not default? Why does this not exist like day one? But okay, again, good example for reacting to feedback and implementing it fast. Once more, the main story is rough, and I don't think this can be improved too much anymore. I will talk about that in my rating section. The user interface is also a choice. Normally you can access memories for a quick access hotkey, which for me at least didn't show up sometimes or straight up didn't work. And you can't access the memories through the knowledge chapter. You have to exit it through the fast selection equipment wheel of the helmet. I'm sorry, what? The accessibility of a few elements is not very intuitive in my opinion, but this is patchable. Maybe they even did it already. And I don't know how to label some issues that I have with this game, but let me try. You are restricted from some things just because. When you rested too much, you can't wait in-game. Yeah, you heard that right. The game straight up doesn't let you rest. So when you build something at your camp and it tells you, well, it will take 17 hours, and you want to see it right now, so you want to wait 17 hours because I want to see it, the game tells you no. Because I just rested before starting the building process. If I want to see this now and I'm willing to wait 17 in-game hours, let me. Then quests range from fantastic to absolute garbage. There is this character, I think his name was Shikaku or something like that, from the Gold Leaf Merchant quest. And I think I never saw a quest so badly executed as this one. I try to keep the spoiler free, but you get sent to do something, you do things, the game tells you what to do next, simple, right? But you don't really know why you do some of the follow-up tasks. I just follow a checklist provided by the game. Why do I suddenly investigate things, and how does my character know where to go next? This quest specifically left a really bad taste in my mouth. I mean, just look at this conversation here, please.
What did Bleak have to say? A guild member is among the masked men. As I expected, a traitor lurks within. What did Bleak have to say? That seems different from what I heard before. Would you like to ruminate further on this?
This is so bad. This is done so poorly, man. How?
And what of Scrav, the trade goods manager?
Furthermore, when it comes to the animations of characters, they feel a little bit over the top, a little bit exaggerated, as if they amped up their excitement by an additional 20%. It just doesn't look right. And another pet peeve from me, learning stuff from books. So you have an animation and transition to open a book, you can read it, turn pages and whatnot, but, and here comes a typical Crimson Desert moment, you have to look down a tiny bit to actually learn the content of the book. I opened a few books and I was like, why am I not learning anything? Is it really just for reading? Until chat told me what I had to do. Alright. So at all times invest a little bit more time into learning all the hotkeys, because there's also a hotkey to instantly learn what's in the book. Why there's even an option B and why you don't learn it like just by opening the book is beyond me. The game is so great in some areas and then so clunky in others. This is something that you will experience a lot during your playthrough. Then, playtime and replay value. This will be a fast one. It's great. The playtime, when you aim for 100% completion, must be somewhere around multiple hundreds of hours. That being said, the last 10% will probably be rather annoying to finish. There's just so much to do and to explore. Full points for playtime. Replay value though is whatever. Should I ever finish this game, I will probably not play it again. Builds can be changed and the other characters that got introduced so far didn't really excite me. But with that amount of playtime, there doesn't need to be a replay value. Crimson Desert and some other games are okay with being the type of ones. and done. That being said, they announced a DLC in the future where you can apparently play online co-op. Then it gets crazy, because I can see myself play this game with friends just for the heck of it. What kind of goofy stuff can we pull off in the game? If they really manage to do that, that would be hot. But this won't be considered in today's review because, well, devs can promise a lot. Am I right? Now, should you buy the game? Rough one. As always, I just want to give you a foundation for your own decision. And I would describe Crimson Desert as an amazing partner. You know? Great body, great personality, absolutely loves you. Phenomenal at cooking. But every 30 minutes, without any reason at all, you get punched in the nuts and then spit in your face while you're lying on the floor there, crying.
Hey, no king shame. Some people pay good money for this.
Okay, not the topic of today's video, but thank you for your input. Back to topic. I have an example to showcase the issue to you. Come a bit closer. It all starts with some random exploration. Random hole in the ground, we explore, we find a crypt with some memory story. Cool as hell. It got me excited. Then, how do we get in? I tried punching, using my focus magic, nothing worked. I found a tiny cave and thought maybe that would be the entry, but nope, only diamonds. I mean, not bad, but not what I was looking for. The solution for the door was to push. Now, before you laugh at me, keep in mind this is the same game that requires extra hotkeys for almost everything and puts multiple actions on the same hotkey, okay? But there is no hotkey to open the door. There is no tooltip, no nothing telling you that you can push the door. Nothing. But okay, maybe I was just dumb. I will take that one on me. You enter the cave and you discover a puzzle. You need to rotate the discs in a specific angle. Alright, at the wall there are paintings and I found the exact same location on my map. So time to leave the cave and investigate. At the marked locations I find paintings. The exact same ones that are in the puzzle cave. This is giving me chills. This is an amazing adventure that I found through exploration. I go back to the puzzle location, obviously in style, and then I realize that the plates mimic your input very sensitively and they don't lock down in any orientation. So if you're off by only a tiny bit, the door won't open. That was unnecessary. Let there be every 10 minutes of the wheel a lock-in spot. I saw some people in my chat, actually me, because then people can brute force the riddle. When you have 6 lock-in points per disc, that leaves you with hundreds of possible combinations, okay? You don't want to brute force that. I don't know, this is a good example of great idea and just sadly not optimal execution. But okay, we open it and get knowledge. Game doesn't tell you which knowledge though, and since I never opened this thing here, the exclamation mark showing you what is new was useless. But hey, we found it and it showed us the locations on the map. So off we go again. All caves from this quest are behind waterfalls. Now I imagined I can just walk through it. Nope. Jump maybe? Nope. Roll? You must do a thrust attack. Only stabbing the waterfalls grants you passage. Excuse me? No, I'm not the strongest person, okay? And I know from my own canyoning experience that water can have quite some pressure when it falls down on you. But lifting your shield at an angle and going in at the side seems to be possible. I mean, we're talking here about a beefed up hero who can easily toss full-grown adults in war gear and snipes scout towers with his bow. But maybe Cliff is a true gamer and is just afraid of water. Who knows? Because strangely enough, a pig can just go through it. But okay. In the caves I find treasures and a special armor set. Sweet, really cool quest. And this is Crimson Desert the whole time. It gives you something cool, something exciting, and then punches you in the groin with something completely unnecessary. With something that could have been done better. So in case you can handle this, go for it. I'm having a lot of fun. But I do have my baby rage moments. I would recommend it for veterans of the genre who can handle quite a bit of jankiness. Now when it comes to rating, it depends on what your focus will be. So today I will do something I never did before. I will give the game 2 ratings. Because there are 2 ways how you can play the game. Main story and quests, or exploration and adventure. I rate this game at a 6 out of 10 for the story and quest approach. And a 8 out of 10 when you focus on exploration and adventure. It simply just shifts too much after each play session. Whenever I did a session focusing on quests and story, I was disappointed. When I focus a session on purely open world exploration, it can be great. I simply love open world action adventure games with a focus on exploration. I know some people call it a RPG, and I can see why, and I was the same at the beginning. But one of the key pillars of RPG games is that your decisions matter. You roleplay, and decisions have consequences. A good example for that would be Baldur's Gate. But the story in Crimson Desert is set in stone. You go through a checklist in your story, and I don't think that there is really a lot of impact on how you handle the main story quest, at least not after the time that I played it. And there's also no character customization. You are stuck with what the game gives you. It does not get max points because the controls were too janky. But it was meant to be played with a controller. Nah, bro. I just can't let it fly. At least trying to make the default hotkeys not hot garbage. And the whole extra controls for opening up new menus was also kinda why. Ugh. Quick healing on F3. Parry is on the same hotkey as targeting. Really? Yes, you can rebind the hotkeys, but some hotkeys are for multiple actions, so you must be careful to not mess with it too much. The next point loss is for the, and I hate to say this, sloppy execution of great ideas. They put so much effort into a few things that it absolutely baffles my mind that some areas feel like an intern worked on it. I assume they ran out of time. It drops from a, I would say 8 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10 because the story is WTF. It is all over the place and it feels massively disjointed. The game tries to make you care about the characters, but there's just nothing for me to feel. Side quests feel as important as your main story. Hell, I'm more attached to my cat and dog in the game by now than caring about the main story quest. And that's why the game has 2 ratings. Fix the stuff besides the story and give us a good online co-op and you can reach a 9 out of 10 game. An exploration game with 6 style. But the 10 is most likely not possible anymore. Because the way how you interact with the story, well, that ship has most likely sailed. And we're now at the end of our review. If you're still here and you enjoyed this, don't forget to drop a like and maybe a sub. We did now quite a few reviews and I tried to keep it going over the next couple of months and hopefully years, and let's see where we will end up. The channel is small, so a little bit of help is appreciated. If you think you can share somewhere the review, that would be awesome from you. And with that, let's roll the outro. Crimson Desert. It was really a weird game to review. But you know who's not weird? Not weird at all. These people right here, my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. You guys are the true chef's kiss. And here again, in case you want to connect with me on my social platforms, you can find that in the description below in the link tree and also in the pinned comment. I have quite a few links prepared for you if you want to see my playthrough and everything. And then at the end, here we go. Trying to fill these boxes here with some up-to-date videos. I see you in the next one. Until then, have a good day and bye-bye.